Hi everyone and welcome to another obscure Asian story.
피청구인 대통령 윤석열을 파면한다.
On April 4th at 11 a.m., Acting Chief Justice Moon Hyung-bae announced the Constitutional Court's historic decision. President Yoon was impeached. The court ruled that Yoon's declaration of martial law last December was illegal, a decision met with widespread public celebration. So, how did we reach this moment and what happens next? The crisis began on December 4th when 6 opposition parties, including the DPK and the Rebuilding Korea Party, filed a motion to impeach Yoon after he declared martial law. Initially, Yoon's own party, the PPP, led by Han Dong-hyun, opposed the impeachment. However, on December 6th, Han revealed evidence that Yoon planned to arrest political opponents, including Han himself, prompting Han to urge Yoon to step down. On December 7th, moments before the impeachment vote, Yoon publicly apologized, calling his martial law declaration desperate and handed political responsibilities to the PPP. Opposition leader Lee Jae-myung dismissed the apology, demanding Yoon resign or face impeachment, criticizing the power-sharing agreement as unconstitutional. The first impeachment vote failed due to insufficient lawmakers present, sparking protests against PPP members who left the chamber. Following this, the PPP arranged an orderly retreat for Yoon, proposing his resignation by early 2025 and a snap election in spring. The situation escalated further when former Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun was arrested for advising martial law. Amid growing pressure, a second impeachment motion was filed on December 12, leading some PPP lawmakers to join the vote. On December 14th, the National Assembly impeached Yoon with 204 votes, immediately suspending him from office.
부 85표, 기권 3표, 무효 8표로서 가결되었음을 선포합니다.
Yoon acknowledged his suspension, promising continued dedication to the nation. Several PPP Supreme Council members resigned, forming an emergency committee. PPP leader Han Dong-hyun also stepped down, describing the impeachment as necessary yet painful. Meanwhile, the DPK celebrated a historic victory and pushed to investigate Yoon further. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo stepped in as acting president but soon faced controversy. Despite police investigations, DPK leader Lee Jae-myung avoided impeaching Han immediately, instead proposing a collaborative body between the government and the National Assembly to maintain stability. The political turmoil extended to other officials. Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun and Interior Minister Lee Sang-min resigned after impeachment threats, while Justice Minister Park Sung-jae and National Police Commissioner Cho Ji-hyo were impeached. Legal action also targeted Yoon's advisor, Sok Dong-hyun, for denying the martial law's severity. On December 27th, acting President Han Duck-soo was impeached for obstructing investigations into Yoon, further complicating matters. With the Constitutional Court short-staffed, debates emerged over appointing new justices. Court proceedings began urgently on December 16th. The impeachment charges were streamlined in January to focus solely on constitutional violations, dropping criminal accusations to speed the trial. Despite criticism from the PPP, the DPK argued its strategies clarified the charges, enabling the court to quickly reach its landmark decision. At the hearing on January 3rd, President Yoon's legal team defended his declaration of martial law. They said it was necessary during a national emergency and argued it was too short to violate people's rights. On January 13th, Yoon's team asked for Justice Chung Kye-sun to be removed from the case, saying she was biased. They also wanted to delay the trial, arguing that the impeachment of acting President Han Duck-soo should be handled first. The court rejected both requests. The next day, on January 14th, the hearing lasted only 4 minutes because Yoon didn't show up. The court went ahead anyway, dismissed the defense's objections, and kept Justice Chung on this case. Key witnesses, including Hong Jang-woon from the National Intelligence Service and Cho Ji-hoo, the head of the National Police Agency. At the January 16th hearing, The court added more hearing dates in February and called for new witnesses, like former Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun. They also accepted surveillance footage as evidence and announced plans to check Yoon's claims about election fraud. Yoon didn't attend, and the court refused to reschedule, despite his arrest. On January 21st, Yoon finally appeared in court. He denied ordering the military to remove lawmakers from the National Assembly and said the troops were meant to block efforts to end martial law. Still, he admitted that sending soldiers could have created a serious crisis. After unrest broke out, including a riot at the Seoul Western District Court, acting President Chae Sang-mok ordered 24/7 police protection for all courts across the country on January 22nd. The next day, January 23rd, Yoon returned to court with Kim Yong-hyun as a witness. Kim denied Yoon told the military to storm the National Assembly, but admitted he had advised declaring martial law. He also helped draft a plan for a temporary legislative body. Yoon defended his actions, saying martial law didn't fail, it just ended earlier than expected. Then, on March 15th, thousands of people took to the streets in Seoul. Some protested against President Yoon, while others supported him. The protests followed shocking reports that the military had prepared thousands of body bags, raising fears of violent crackdowns, torture, and even the mass killing of political opponents. Supporters of President Yoon Suk-yeol have embraced extreme conspiracy theories similar to QAnon. They believe China, North Korea, communism, and even progressivism are threats to South Korea. These far-right movements includes conservative media, religious groups, and many young right-wingers. They back Yoon fiercely, sometimes even violently, going as far as attacking the Constitutional Court. President Yoon has faced major backlash for interfering with elections and using questionable legal tactics. His critics believe he operates on the idea that political crimes don't matter unless people raise a fuss. During his impeachment trial, he tried to downplay the seriousness of declaring martial law, acting as though it only mattered if the public got upset about it. Yoon's declaration of martial law didn't just cause domestic chaos, it created international tension too. Defense talks and joint military drills with the US were postponed. Sweden's prime minister and a Japanese delegation also cancelled visits to South Korea. Political instability also took a toll on the economy. Lower growth forecasts and foreign investors pulled back due to uncertainty. Yoon, a former prosecutor himself, won the 2022 election by a narrow margin during a time of economic frustration and deep social divides. Many say tolerating extremism and anti-democratic behavior could destroy South Korea's democratic foundations. To officially remove Yoon, 2/3 of the 300-seat legislature needed to approve, followed by the Constitutional Court's confirmation. Yoon's party, the People Power Party, only held 108 seats, having recently lost ground due to public disapproval. Then, on April 4th at 11 a.m., the Constitutional Court confirmed Yoon's impeachment, 111 days after he imposed martial law. The court ruled that his orders to send troops to the National Assembly and arrest lawmakers were illegal. The military officers testified that Yoon gave direct commands to remove political opponents by force. Public images of soldiers storming parliament made it clear this wasn't just about keeping order. The court also found Yoon's raid on the National Election Commission and its restrictions on political activity to be unconstitutional. That alone, they said, was enough to justify impeachment. Now stripped of presidential immunity, Yoon faces prosecution for treason and other serious charges. After the ruling, tens of thousands of people flooded downtown Seoul to celebrate the decision, but Yoon's supporters were nearby too, angry and emotional. South Korea is now preparing for a new presidential election at a critical time, facing challenges like tensions with North Korea, uneasy relations with China, and trade friction with the US. Kim Sang-woo, a former lawmaker and now a member of the Kim Dae-jung Peace Foundation, called the ruling necessary for national stability. He condemned Yoon's martial law as completely unjustified. In response, Yoon apologized publicly and urged his party to stay united for the upcoming elections. The PPP accepted the ruling, but it's facing internal conflict. Some wonder whether they should even run, given that both impeached presidents in South Korean history came from their party. Opposition leader Lee Jae-myung, who narrowly lost to Yoon in 2022, is now the frontrunner. But the race isn't over. the country remains deeply divided. For many, the court's decision is a win for democracy, but there's still fear that Yoon's supporters could cause unrest. Already, some far-right groups, fueled by misinformation, are protesting the impeachment. They claim the Democratic Party committed election fraud, supports North Korea, and wants to unify the peninsula under Kim Jong-un. They say martial law was necessary to stop this and to investigate the last election. To them, Yoon's actions were not illegal, they were heroic. But for many people watching from the outside, this moment is proof that at least one country is still willing to punish corruption at the highest level. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time, and thanks for watching!